All right, so I was scouring the internet up in this piece, cuckolds, and I saw an article about Gunther from WWE, also known as Walter to all the neckbeards. Now, here's why I decided to make this video. Walter, in my opinion, is probably the best wrestler right now. Now, I'm not saying this because of his character work or his in-ring work, because quite frankly, character work is kind of repetitive at this point. He's just Gunther, whatever, it is what it is, right? He's like part of Imperium. And then his in-ring work, even though he has good matches and it's fun, I don't care about that. I always care about the storylines, you know? And quite honestly, like his finishing, his moves are very like basic, you know? I know that's what he's going for. He's going for the I'll kick your ass type of guy. But I'm not really like, I don't really care about Gunther matches. I mean, I care about them more than I would care about like a CM Punk match. But, you know, I don't really give a shit. He's in the mid-card. I don't, you know, doesn't really draw me in, right? But I will say this. The reason why he is, in my opinion, the best wrestler right now is because he has followed the haters' formula for success. Recently, Gunther, and this is very clear by looking at the matches, he has lost a shitload of weight, 30, 40 pounds easy, right? Now, in my opinion, for a character like Gunther, this is not a great thing because him being a little bit stocky, right, and a little bit fat, just fits his character. He's just more of like a bruiser. He just looks like he can take more punishment. Now he actually looks a little frail because, I mean, he's a strong guy, obviously, but he's not like jacked like John Cena is. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you look at him and you're like, oh, like, why would Roman Reigns be afraid of this guy? Whereas when he was fatter, you could be like, okay, this guy would beat the shit out of Roman Reigns. Even now, he'd probably beat the shit out of Roman Reigns, but that's neither here nor there. But the point is, in the link that I clicked that had an interview with Gunther, right? Gunther explained that while it was tolerable and okay to be overweight in the independents, right? When you're fighting in front of 10 people, right? In the minor leagues, this is no longer, and even in NXT, this is no longer tolerable in the main roster, right? Now, there were speculations that this was like told to him by Triple H or Vince, like fucking get it together. You're a fat fuck, right? But he says it's on his own volition. So we're going to just take his word for it, cucks. We're not going to sit here and just speculate as to what it could be otherwise. So, with that being said, let's compare him and Samoa Joe, who stayed fat his whole career. Now, who do you think deserves the push more? Samoa Joe or Gunther? In my opinion, it's Gunther. For that reason, right? It's not the fact that he lost weight. Who gives a shit about that? There's plenty of fat fucks, you know? And there's plenty of people that get in shape and still are jobbers, like Braun Strowman. How this guy is a jobber is beyond me, but it is what it is, right? And there's people like Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal who come back looking yoked and get a huge push. Now, Gunther falls in that latter category, right? And as a result, in my opinion, he deserves a push like at least Jinder Mahal and maybe like Drew McIntyre got, right? He came back, or he improved while being in wrestling, right? He improved significantly his physique. In other words, he took care to improve himself at his craft, right? He understands that nobody really gives a flying fuck in the mainstream. That's the thing, motherfuckers. He gets it, right? He understands that in the mainstream, nobody cares about in-ring work. Nobody cares about how many flips you can do. They care about your aesthetic because your aesthetic speaks volumes about you, right? It tells the world, I care, right? It tells the world that I'm going to make the sacrifice and put down the donut so that I can look good on TV and look believable. Now, you could argue like I just did that he looks less believable now, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, he's putting in the work. He's making the sacrifices to look the part. Gunther is not Randy Orton, all right? He's never going to have, like, the lean physique like Randy Orton has, right? He's not handsome like Randy Orton. He's not going to be the face of the company because he's not, like, you know, model good looking, right? And you need that, unfortunately, to become a big star in today's WWE, right? It's an aesthetic business, for better or for worse, right? That's why people are so high. I don't see it personally, but on Austin Theory, I think he looks kind of weird, but whatever, it is what it is. The point is, people, every time I talk to my wrestling friends, they're like, yeah, he's a good-looking kid, he's this, he's that. He's marketable, basically, right? He can be the face of the company. Sami Zayn will never be the face of the company. Roman Reigns, same thing. People are talking about him going to Hollywood. Everybody knows that for the most part, you have to be attractive to be in Hollywood, right? I mean, yeah, you could be like, I don't know, Kevin Spacey, I guess, but, you know, he's an old man. But the point is, you know, you have to have certain aesthetics. Gunther knows he's not Randy Orton, right? He's not Brad Pitt, motherfucks, you know what I'm saying? But he's doing the best he can, right? And if you look at the haters' past videos, I have always given credit to everyone that does this, right? From someone like Gunther today, all the way, motherfuckers, to John Silver in AEW. Think about that. John Silver, he is not the Undertaker. He is not tall. That's his handicap. He is not big. I don't mean handicap like he's handicapped, you dopes. I mean handicap like the thing that holds him back, cucksuckers. So, he's not tall, right? So, what can he do? I'll tell you what he can do. He can work his ass out, right? And become as strong as he can possibly be and turn that into like a personality. Not a gimmick per se, but like Johnny Hungy, right? The point is like, he's the short guy that can lift you up and throw you, right? It's badass. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's unique, right? You see this small guy just throwing big dudes over. It's awesome, right? So that's what he's doing. He's doing the best he can with the hand that he's been given. Walter, not saying he's an ugly guy or anything like that, but he's not, Brad Pitt, right? And he was fat. So he's like, shit, there's a few things that are going to prevent me from being in the main event. Specifically, my weight. So I'm going to try my best. This doesn't mean he's going to become a main eventer, right? But at least he's trying his best. And when people try their best, other people notice, cocksuckers. That's the reality. The reality is not Vince McMahon or Triple H are going to look at him and say, yeah, now that you're in shape, we'll put you on TV. No, they're going to understand that when it's time to wrestle a match, this guy's not going to call in sick. This guy is not going to pretend he's hurt. He's not going to be bullshitting them at contract negotiations and threatening them and Jeff Jarretting them, right? He's going to be a real one about it because he clearly cares. He's trying to show the boss, hey, boss, I'm working hard. You know what I mean? And just the fact that he's working hard, even if this guy was trying to lose weight and failing, but he was, for some reason, doing this in front of Triple H would probably take notice and be like, oh, nice, man. You're trying. I see that you're trying. So I'm going to give you a push. I'm going to give you a prominent spot on the card. Maybe I'll give you a raise, right? That's the only type of meritocracy that exists in wrestling, right? People talk about how WWE holds people down. How do they hold anyone down? Nakamura looks like shit. He's skinny fat. Miro was fat for the most part in WWE. He looks great now, like he's jacked now, but he was pretty much fat most of the time in WWE, and he was treated better there than in AEW. Right? You have people like Darby Allin. This guy needs to hit the gym, motherfucks. Adam Cole, are you kidding me? He is someone that, I think embodies this perfectly. He's someone that didn't improve at all. He went to NXT, and he just stayed this skinny guy. He's not even skinny fat, he's just skinny. It's like when I use this as an example, a wrestler whose ass I could kick without any doubts, I say it's Adam Cole, because look at him, motherfucks. He's 5'10" at most, right? 5'10" at most, skinny as shit. He has no muscles. And then people are like, this is the next Shawn Michaels. Are you fucking insane? Look at Shawn Michaels in the 80s when he was roided up. Then look at or allegedly roided up. Then look at Shawn Michaels in the 90s, right? Look at Shawn Michaels at any point in his career, except for now maybe, when he would do the little pose where he leans on one leg and does a bicep flex. And look at the definition of his biceps. He has the best biceps ever, motherfucks. If Adam Cole did that, you wouldn't see shit. So he is nowhere near Shawn Michaels in charisma, in ability, in anything. So it's a silly comparison, but nevertheless, it does stand as a great example of someone that didn't work hard. So of course, eventually they're like, beat it, man. You know what I'm saying? You bring nothing to the table. You're not even trying. You're trying to rest on your laurels, and you have no laurels to rest on because your laurels are in ROH in front of 15 people. Gunther's laurels are in Evolve Pro Wrestling in Europe in front of 50 people, but he understood that now that he's in the big time, he needs to improve himself, right? And one of the ways to improve yourself is to change your appearance. Another way to improve yourself is to make yourself more marketable generally. Right? I'm sure John Cena would like to go out and do rap gimmicks and, talk shit like the Massachusetts boy that he is, but he understands that in order to become to have appeal to the mainstream audience, to appeal both to children and parents, so they buy your shirt, so then they make you the main eventer, you have to do this. You have to manipulate the situation a little bit. There are exceptions, right? Of course, there are exceptions. Like CM Punk is popular, and he never appealed to to anybody, in my opinion, but whatever, Obviously, Stone Cold and The Rock appeal to a different demographic, but the point is, you have to be able to change. You can't, this fantasy that you're going to take some jobber from the indies, put him in WWE, and have him act the exact same way, right, is ridiculous. This is what people say when they say WWE ruins people, right? They'll take an example, for example, War Machine, They'll take War Machine, who are now the Viking Raiders, and like that's a good example because it's like Viking Raiders are not interesting. Like just a stupid ass gimmick. Oh, these guys live like they're Vikings. Why? That's fucking weird. I don't want to see that shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's the idea, right? The idea is you have to keep it the way it is. But with that being said, for the most part, it's a push and pull. But Gunther has really mastered it. He really is trying to stand out. That's what he's trying to do. In a sea of people that have no desire to improve, he improves, right? Ricochet is completely content with doing his flips, and that's it. Having no charisma, not improving himself at all, being boring, right? He's content with that, it seems, right? Or maybe they're holding him back. Right? It's always the writer's fault. But how about stand out? The world is full of examples of people who had shit writing, right? Like the guy from Breaking Bad, the Pollos Hermanos guy. That guy, apparently, he wasn't supposed to be in more than one episode. But because he delivered his lines in a specific way, he put himself over, cuckolds, to the fans. And they demanded more of him, and then he's leveraged that into like a full career now, basically. Right? It's called trying to improve. It's called making the most with what you got. Right? And you cannot argue, for example, oh, WWE ruined Samoa Joe. No. You could make that argument if Samoa Joe got into like the best shape of his life, got better at promos instead of just yelling at the mic the whole time, and then WWE dropped the ball. You could then make that point. Until you've improved everything you can about yourself to the best of your ability, you cannot blame anybody else for your shortcomings. That's a life lesson right here, cuckolds. This is what I tell some people, right? Now, the hater, I'm not here to talk about mental health or anything, but I will say this. Some people that are depressed, that have depression, are not clinically depressed. They're just people who refuse to improve themselves, right? Like I always tell people, like me and my friend were talking, and he was telling me how all the people that he knows are depressed. And he showed me a picture of him and his depressed friends. All of his depressed friends were overweight. Now, I'm not saying that being overweight leads to depression, even though it probably does. But what I'm saying is this. Those people, before they start taking any pills, they should lose the weight first. Lose the weight first, then tell me if you're depressed. And then if you are still depressed, fix some other shit, and then maybe after that, go and take some pills. But you cannot claim that you're depressed because your brain chemistry is wrong when I can look at you and I can tell you 5 things about you that probably make you sad, or that would make me sad if I had those qualities, right? So it's the same thing in wrestling. People can say, oh, WWE held back Rich Swann. No, Rich Swann wasn't jacked enough. You put him next to Tony Nese, and you haven't beat Tony Nese, and it's like, how in what world would Rich Swann beat Tony Nese, who looks like a fucking statue, right? Ironically, nobody says, oh, they dropped the ball with Tony Nese. That's actually someone they dropped the ball with because he tried his best to at least look good and wrestle well, and cut promos when he had a chance. So that's what I'm getting at, Cucks. Gunther represents the work ethic that leads to success in anything, including WWE. One of those things is doing the best you can to improve yourself. Almost every wrestler that I ever talk about and that I admire has done this, right? They've improved themselves. Mark Henry, I bring his ass up often, motherfucks, as someone who paid his dues and then eventually became champion. Should he have had to pay his dues? Fuck no. That's weird. But he was rewarded. And people are like, well, Mark Henry stayed fat. No, Mark Henry did stay fat. But people don't know this, but Mark Henry went and won a second World's Strongest Man competition. And Vince McMahon apparently told him, Mark, you can go and do it, but just so you know, there's no room in WWE for the world's second strongest man. In other words, if you don't win, you might be out of a job, cocksucker. So he went and he won. He took a risk, right? And it paid off. And this led to his second push when he came back with the longer hair, right? Which ultimately led to him being reintroduced to the WWE Universe, right? And keeping his career going for another 10 years, right? And then eventually led to a world title. If he didn't do that, if Mark Henry didn't go and try to improve himself, try to reassert himself as legitimately the world's strongest man, nobody would care. He would probably be released, right? And people would be like, oh, they didn't use Mark Henry well. No, Mark Henry took fate into his own hands and did that shit, right? Just like Gunther is doing now, cucksuckers. Booker T, another one. He did the King gimmick, He changed his gimmick like 80% into his career. Why not? It's going to help cuckolds. Think about it, right? R-Truth. as versatile as he is. So many changes. Matt Hardy, even. Jeff Hardy. All these people have made changes. And that's why nobody would ever say WWE misused Matt Hardy. They gave him every chance. Every chance they gave him. And Jeff Hardy. And that's why they're both going to be Hall of Famers. Christian Cage, same thing. You know what I mean? Every chance he's got the opportunities because he's continued to improve himself. He's improved him. He understood that being long-haired, goofy Christian wasn't going to work anymore. So he had to become short-haired, smart aleck Christian to get over. And over he got, motherfucks. Over he got. That's what I got to say about that. With that being said, that's why Gunther rules, and that's why a lot of AEW wrestlers suck ass, as do the ones in WWE for the most part. Cucks.